Someone once asked me a question that sounded simple. Shelley, when you look back at your life, who are the 5 people you loved the most? I wanted to laugh it away. How do you reduce a lifetime to 5 names? How do you compare the woman who taught you how to stand beneath studio lights with the man who sat beside you while you waited for a liver that might never come?
But the question stayed with me. I thought about a television mother who taught me more than acting. I thought about the most famous man in America and the private laughter the public never heard. I thought about a woman who gave me my first memories, then slowly lost her own. I thought about the co-star who gave me a second television home when Hollywood had already decided it knew my story. And finally, I thought about the man who loved me when there was no audience, no guarantee, and sometimes no clear tomorrow. The last name was the easiest to know and the hardest to say, but I could not reach him honestly without beginning at the first doorway. The first person was Donna Reed. Most people remember Donna as my television mother on the Donna Reed show. They remember the immaculate house, the gentle wisdom, the feeling that every problem might be solved before the credits rolled. I remember the woman who stood at the center of all that machinery and made it feel human. I was young when I became Mary Stone, young enough to be thrilled, frightened, ambitious, and uncertain at the same time. A television set can be a confusing place for a child.
Everyone is friendly, but everyone is working. Every smile has a mark to hit. Every spontaneous family moment has been rehearsed beneath hot lights. Donna showed me that professionalism did not require coldness. She arrived prepared. She understood what the scene needed. But she also understood that the people making the scene mattered.
She carried herself with a grace I could study even when no camera was pointed at her. The audience saw a perfect television mother. I saw a woman balancing expectations that were not always fair, especially for women in that era. She had to be warm but authoritative, beautiful but never vain, strong but never threatening. Watching her taught me that dignity could be a form of resistance.
There were moments when I forgot we were pretending to be family. That is the strange intimacy of a long-running television series. You celebrate fictional birthdays and solve fictional arguments, but the years passing between you are real. You learn the sound of another person's footsteps. You know when she is tired before she speaks. You begin to carry pieces of each other away from the set.
Donna gave me more than a role. She gave me an example. When fame arrived in other forms, when Johnny Angel became a #1 record, when magazines treated me like a teenage dream, when strangers decided they knew me, I had already watched Donna survive the distance between a public image and a private self. She taught me to do the work, respect the people,
and remember that applause is temporary. But the second person on my list lived inside applause, so enormous it could swallow a room. His name was Elvis Presley. To the world, Elvis was not merely a man. He was an event. When he entered a place, the air changed. People watched him before they remembered to watch anything else. I worked with him in 3 films, Girl Happy, Spinout, and Clambake. People still ask what he was really like, as if I might possess one secret sentence capable of explaining him. I do not.
What I have are moments. I remember the fun. I remember the laughter between scenes. I remember a man carrying an image much larger than himself. The public saw the hair, the smile, the voice, the impossible magnetism. Working beside him, I also saw the person required to wake up each morning and live inside that legend. Our movies were bright, musical, and romantic. They were designed to make people happy. Yet behind every polished frame was a group of human beings repeating scenes, missing cues, teasing one another, and waiting for the next setup. That ordinary space is where affection grows. Elvis could make the set feel playful. He possessed a warmth that mattered because the pressure around him was so intense. Everybody wanted something, a performance, a photograph, a piece of the phenomenon. I valued the intervals when he could simply be a colleague. Why include him among the people I loved most? Not because the world called him the king. Titles disappear the moment two actors stand on their marks and try to make a scene believable. I include him because joy is a form of love, and he gave those years joy. When I looked back on those films, I did not first remember the premieres. I remembered how much fun we had making them. There is sadness in that memory because Elvis did not grow old. The image remained young while the person disappeared. That teaches you something fame never admits. Millions can love an image and still be unable to save the human being inside it. The first two names belong to the world I entered as a young actress. The third belonged to the world that existed before any camera knew my face. My mother, Elsa Fabares. She gave me my beginning. She knew the child before Mary Stone, before Johnny Angel, before Elvis, before Coach. Mothers carry the earliest archive of our lives. They remember the things we cannot the first fear, the first joke, the first time we reached for them in the dark. Then Alzheimer's disease began taking that archive away. There is no easy way to describe watching someone you love lose her memory. People speak about forgetting as if it were misplacing a name or walking into a room without remembering why. This was different. This was a slow alteration of the relationship itself. I could enter a room carrying decades of shared history, but the person I needed might no longer be able to reach it. I learned that grief can begin before death. You mourn one small loss, then another, while still trying to be present for the person standing before you. You feel sorrow, frustration, tenderness, exhaustion, guilt, and sometimes all of them in the same hour. My mother's illness changed the direction of my life. I began working with the Alzheimer's Association in the late 1980s. I served, spoke, and testified before Congress because families dealing with the disease needed more than sympathy. They needed research, support, recognition, and honest language about what caregiving demanded. I had spent years using scripts written by other people. Alzheimer's gave me something I had to say in my own voice. My mother died in 1992, but my commitment did not die with her. Love does not always end when the person is gone. Sometimes it changes form. It becomes work. It becomes advocacy. It becomes the decision to stand beside strangers because you recognize the look in their eyes. If my mother had never become ill, perhaps my life would have been easier. But I would not have understood compassion in quite the same way. I would not have understood how many caregivers are performing acts of devotion while feeling invisible. Elsa taught me my deepest lesson without ever choosing to teach it. A person is still worthy of love when memory fails, language fades, and recognition becomes uncertain. That lesson would matter again when my own body failed me. But before I tell you about the man who lived that crisis beside me, there is a fourth name, the person who helped me rediscover what a television family could become after I was no longer anyone's teenage daughter. Craig T. Nelson. When Coach began, people already carried an old picture of me. That is the gift and burden of starting young. Audiences remember the face they first loved, even after the person inside it has lived several different lives. Christine Armstrong allowed me to be seen differently. She was intelligent, composed, affectionate, and strong enough to challenge Hayden Fox. Craig played Hayden with tremendous comic force, the stubborn football coach charging forward as if every conversation were a game to win. Christine did not need to become louder than him. She needed to be clearer. That balance created the heart of the show. Craig and I spent 9 seasons building it. Comedy depends on trust. You must listen closely, surrender vanity, and allow the other person to set up the moment that makes you shine. Over years, the timing becomes instinctive. A glance can replace a sentence. A pause can carry an entire argument. The public saw Christine and Hayden. I saw Craig's generosity, focus, humor, and loyalty to the work. Coach gave me 2 Emmy nominations, but the nominations are not what I would hold closest. I would hold the rhythm of those days, arriving on set, seeing familiar faces, rehearsing a scene until it clicked, hearing the audience respond, and knowing we had created a place people wanted to revisit every week. Years later, I call the experience fabulous. I meant it. It was fabulous because it arrived when I could bring my whole life to it. I was no longer a girl learning where to stand. I was a woman who understood loss, marriage, disappointment, and resilience. Christine's warmth did not come from innocence. It came from experience. Craig helped make room for that woman on screen. And yet, even during those successful years, another story was moving quietly underneath mine. My health was changing. In early 1999, an emergency revealed that my liver was failing because of autoimmune hepatitis. I needed a transplant. Then came the waiting roughly 22 months, during which every ringing telephone could mean hope, and every silent day could mean time was running out. This is where the 5th name enters fully. But he had entered my life long before the hospital rooms. Mike Farrell. Most people knew Mike from MASH. I knew the man behind that familiar face, passionate, restless, idealistic, sometimes carrying more of the world's suffering than one person could reasonably hold. We had crossed paths professionally years earlier, but the moment that changed us came after we reconnected as adults. At a CBS dinner around 1980, Mike was deeply affected by what he had seen in refugee camps in El Salvador. He was troubled, angry, and searching for a way to make sense of it. I sat beside him. He later said my presence had a calming effect. I did not perform some grand rescue. Sometimes love announces itself quietly before either person knows what to call it. Sometimes it is simply the feeling that the noise inside you becomes less frightening when one particular person is near. After one of his talks, we went for coffee. That detail means more to me than any glamorous story could. Coffee is ordinary. It creates no spectacle. It gives 2 people time to talk. We did not begin as perfect characters at the start of a romance. We were adults with histories, responsibilities, and wounds. We chose each other anyway. We married on December 31st, 1984, in the backyard of my aunt, Nanette Fabares. Mike brought children from his earlier marriage, and I entered a family that already had its own story. Becoming a stepmother was not a role with lines waiting on a page. Trust had to be earned. Love had to become specific rides, conversations, mistakes, patience, showing up again. Then my liver began to fail, and every easy definition of marriage fell away. For nearly 22 months, we lived with uncertainty. People imagine courage as a bold speech. In illness, courage is often repetition. Another appointment. Another test. Another day without the call. Another night in which 2 people try not to say aloud what both are thinking. Would an organ become available in time? Would I survive the operation? Would the life we built continue, or were we already living its final chapter? Mike stayed. He could not solve the medical problem. He could not move my name to the top of the transplant list. He could not promise me an ending. What he could do was make sure uncertainty did not become loneliness. In October 2000, the call came. I received a liver transplant, and I lived. Those 3 words, "and I lived," contain years. They contain recovery and medication. They contain gratitude to a donor and a grieving family whose generosity made my future possible. They contain anniversaries Mike and I might never have reached, ordinary breakfasts we might never have shared, and mornings when simply waking beside him felt like an answered prayer. People often ask about the secret of a long marriage. I do not believe there is one secret. There are thousands of small decisions. Tell the truth. Listen again. Forgive what can be forgiven. Stay when staying is difficult. Laugh before pride hardens. See the person, not merely the part he plays for the world. Mike and I had more than 4 decades together. The number sounds impressive, but love is not lived as a number. It is lived one day at a time. That is why he had to be the final name. Donna taught me how to carry myself when the camera was watching. Elvis reminded me that joy can survive even under impossible fame. My mother taught me that love must remain when memory cannot. Craig gave me a second television home and trusted the woman I had become. But Mike knew me when none of those identities could protect me. He knew the actress and the frightened patient. He knew the advocate who could speak before Congress and the wife who needed silence. He knew the public smile and the private exhaustion. He knew the woman waiting for a telephone call that would determine whether we had a future. And he loved all of her. If you ask me again who I loved the most, I still cannot measure one kind of love against another. A mentor, a friend, a mother, a co-star, and a husband occupy different rooms of the heart. But I understand why the question matters. At the end of a life, credits become dates on a page. Ratings become old numbers. Awards gather dust. Even a #1 song eventually stops playing. What remains is the human evidence. Who made you feel safe? Who made you laugh? Who changed the direction of your compassion? Who saw a new version of you when the world was still staring at the old one? Who stayed when tomorrow could not be promised? My 5 answers are Donna Reed, Elvis Presley, my mother Elsa, Craig T. Nelson, and Mike Farrell. 5 names. 5 different forms of love. And one final truth. The public spent a lifetime remembering me as Mary Stone, the girl singing Johnny Angel, Elvis's leading lady, or Christine from Coach. I was grateful for every one of those memories. But the life that mattered most happened between the scenes. It happened in the lessons Donna never knew I was studying. It happened in the laughter Elvis shared when the world briefly looked away. It happened beside my mother, when love had to speak even after memory fell silent. It happened across 9 seasons with Craig in the trust between 2 actors building a marriage for television. And it happened at home with Mike, in the long wait, the second chance, and all the ordinary days we were given afterward. If I learned anything, it is this: we do not defeat time by remaining young on a screen. We defeat it by leaving love in other people. Donna left it in me. Elvis left it in laughter. My mother left it in service. Craig left it in friendship. And Mike left it in every day when his presence told me I would never face the uncertain future alone. That is the name I saved for last. Not because the others mattered less. Because when every role was over, every light was switched off, and the audience had gone home, Mike Farrell was still there. And for 42 years, so was I.